back at the 2010 PAC KOTESOL International Conference with Stafford Lumsden. Hey, Stafford.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going?
Great. How's your conference been so far?
Actually, it's winding down now. Sunday afternoon. Saturday morning is spent in my role as support services chair, putting out a lot of fires that come up first thing on Saturday morning. By Sunday afternoon, it's looking good.
All right, support services chair.
That's
Tell us
me.
what that involves.
I guess the biggest deal is I look after all our student volunteer, 120 student volunteers from universities across Korea have given up whole or part of their weekend to volunteer, look after our invited speakers as personal assistants, all the way down to standing at the front of Sukdae, greeting people and pushing them in the right direction. So yeah, we've got 130, I think, actually this year.
Wow.
So, other things I do,
You do have a number of things on the list.
Troubleshooting, yeah, everything else falls under troubleshooting. Making sure things are in the right place if need be. Stopping fights.
Now, how long have you been in Korea? How long have you been involved in KOTESOL?
Korea, 7 years. KOTESOL, this will be my, I think, 4th year as a member, and probably 3rd year as sort of being more active in the group.
And what's your day job?
I'm a TESOL instructor at Kyoto.
Oh, okay.
In Seoul. Yeah.
All right. Now, you are also a candidate. What are you running for?
Right, yes. I am running for the position of conference co-chair. So I'm looking for a bit of a promotion from support services chair. The co-chair really assists the chair and is their go-to person, both in the planning and at conference. I expect it to be a fairly hard job next year. It's a 2-year position, though. The 2nd year one ascends to the position of full chair of the international conference, which, if elected, will put me in charge of KOTESOL's 20th conference.
In 2012.
2012.
And looking around the conference as you walk around, what's going really well and you're thinking we have to make sure to keep doing that? Where do you look and say, maybe 2012 I'd like to do that a little differently?
I think the strength of any conference falls on its presentations. And we have a really high caliber of presentations this year, as well as a large number of presentations. I think almost 50% more than we had last year, from people all over the world, not just Korea, and not just Asia either. Presenting on all manner of wide sort of topics, obviously to do with teaching English, but it's a very large field, and I think we've got it really covered this year in the number of presenters and what they're talking about. Looking as to things that we would like to do a little better, perhaps, in the coming years. Providing food for our attendees has come up as a big thing this year. We had some snacks and things on site. Perhaps we need to look to provide sort of more full-service breakfast lunch sort of deal. And there are a few little niggly things that are just back-end things that no one actually sees and would know any better. But in the back end, it would just make organising things a little smoother if we, did this or that a little quicker or a little better. But overall, really proud to be part of conference again this year, and looking forward to many more.
Have you been able to go to any sessions? Or?
Well, actually, I presented my own session yesterday.
Which was what?
I was talking about using an iPhone application to teach vocab. And I am intending to go one about 3 o'clock this afternoon, but unfortunately that's been it this year.
All right. Speaking of conferences in the future, we were speaking with Phil before the program chair, and one of the topics that came up was we've got 160-something presentations, 24 concurrent sessions at a time. There's no way you can see them all. I, for one, I haven't been able to leave my tent. I would love to see or learn more a bit about these I'd love to check out your presentation. I'd love to see the PowerPoint. If there was a recording, I'd love to see that. Any thoughts about how to archive some of these presentations?
Oh, look, you've hit the nail on the head. I think after the conference, I think it's... take a step back. During the conference, I think, we should be recording these presentations in some shape or form, whether it's just asking presenters for their slides and putting that up on like Presenti or something, or audio or visual recordings of the bigger presentations, and then after conference making those available online to people who missed the conference or were at conference but missed some of the presentations that they didn't get to, or picked one over another because this one sounded better, or stuff like that. I think the concern amongst some of the organisers is that we run the risk of lessening attendance if we just put up everything on the internet.
I still don't agree.
I don't agree either. And I guess if I'm elected to a position, I'm going to spend a lot of time convincing people that this is the way to go in the future.
Well, sounds good. Now, I have to ask you, there was a time in KOTESOL's history when elections were kind of boring affairs. And just, okay, yeah, you guys are up next, you take over. That has not been the case in recent years.
Democracy is alive and well in KOTESOL.
Apparently so. And this year has been, I don't know if contentious is quite the right word, but it's been contested.
It's been contested, and that's a good thing for any organisation. You talk about new blood or old blood. If we can keep the old blood on their toes, that's just as good, I think. There have been some concerns, perhaps, about the way elections have been run in the past. This year, I can't find any fault with the stuff that Josh Davies, as nominations and elections chair, has done with him and his team. It's been all fairly above board. There have been some issues concerning some call lists or something.
How's life as a candidate? You've been...
all's fair in love and politics.
Indeed. Life as a candidate. I mean, you've spent time at this table. I've been surprised. People are coming up there and they're asking about issues. How's that been?
Interesting. I've seen more people who have said, "Oh no, I've already voted online. Good on you," which perhaps takes the bite out of it. There's no stumping, there's no campaigning as such. In person. I've been part of this team, a loose affiliate of people sort of pooling our resources. So we've had people covering various chapter meetings across the country. It's sort of the online voting, while efficient and probably a little more secure and all that sort of thing, kind of dumbs it down a bit these days. I'm not sure whether we need to change that, or certainly from a convenience point of view, I wouldn't want to change it, but.
I was just speaking with Bob Caprilis, the president of KOTESOL, and one of the questions I had for him is, what's going to happen if we wind up with a mixed slate, and you get some from this group and some from that group? How do you heal wounds? How do you create an organizational harmony?
Well, are there wounds?
I don't know. I mean, I maybe the drama is overplayed in schmoozing conversations at the conference, and maybe it's no big deal, and people go into the meeting and no conflict. But if you're part of a mixed slate and there is kind of...
Well, I would hope that a mixed slate would bring compromise. I think one of the concerns is that there's one sort of block who are just the status quo. It keeps going and going and going, and no one is there to bring fresh ideas. Okay, if you get a mixed slate, there'll be some fresh ideas, there'll be some old ideas, and the key would be make compromise. I think if that were the case, it's incumbent on people like Bob as president to make it easy for the council to reach compromise. As president and chair of the National Council, that's his job. In some instances, if that means it's his deciding vote, that's the way we've set up our organisation, that's the way democracy works. I have got no issue with losing a vote, as long as there is...
As long as your voice was heard. And
everyone was heard and there was a vote. Yeah. Or if we can reach a compromise, that would be better. Yeah. So...
Right. Now, I have to ask you, you are part of Korea's best-known English podcast, Seoul Podcast, which is kind of tapered off. We've had a couple kind of pseudo...
On a hiatus. Some are hiatus. Joe obviously is pregnant, or rather, his wife is pregnant, and I think the little one's about to drop any day now.
Is that going to be podcast? Honey, can I record this?
I think his wife has already said no to that. I'm sure it came up. But what I think you're asking is when are we coming back?
Yes.
We're recording next week.
Excellent. That was part one of the question. Part two, as a podcaster, any thoughts about KOTESOL casting?
No. I'll put it this way. The Seoul Podcast, two of us are KOTESOL members. Jen is actually the National Secretary for National Council and is standing unopposed this year. and I'm an active member. So in a way, this whole podcast is kind of a KOTESOL podcast as well. We certainly make sure people know KOTESOL events are happening on the podcast. Last year we actually did an advertisement for the national conference and slipped it into a few podcasts a couple of weeks before. But no, at being on hiatus this year, we didn't have that chance. In terms of setting up a fully KOTESOL sponsored and backed podcast, it's certainly something we could look to. I know there's certainly a lot of English language teaching podcasts out there.
Korea-based?
Korea's sort of empty in the podcasting world, really, isn't it? Apart from a few well-known and fantastic individuals like yourself. You've got the south side, we've got the north side covered. We're fine. I think it would need to be a balance between sort of ESL, EFL based sort of teaching ideas and stuff about the organisation.
Well, I'd love to have a council meeting podcast. I know part of it has to happen behind closed doors, but as a member, it would be nice to, people, because there was a discussion on that webcast about were the minutes released and everything. I don't want to read minutes. I want to hear what happened.
It would be, I think, open democracy. Every Western world televises its parliamentary proceedings.
We could have the C-SPAN of KOTESOL. That'd be scintillating.
That'd be fantastic. And certainly I think a bit more openness might make the members of the National Council certainly more accountable for what they say and what they do as representatives of KOTESOL members on council, No, I'm all for it.
All right.
As long as there are no close-ups and you only get my good side.
Okay, not in HD.
Not in HD.
All right, anything else you want to say or talk about?
No, hey, thanks for the chance to come and say hi. Well, thanks for coming to conference.
Oh, delighted to be here.
I
Great
recommend
talking to you.
We'll probably do a follow-up after the elections.
Sounds
see
good.
Who won.
All right. Well, best of luck. And
thanks very much.
Thank you.